Hey everybody, this is the final video in the series, and you probably expect, that Mark's going to do a studio chat, and you're right, and I hope you'll join me afterwards.
Guys, it's cold out here.
It is real cold out here.
Cold one.
Ooh,
17 degrees.
that how cold your watch said it was?
That's how cold it said it was, and that's our official temperature keeper for the trip.
My goodness.
Although 22 degrees in my tent for 2022 does actually sound.
22 for 22.
Just saying.
Hey, that's right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
January 1st, a very near Death Valley New Year.
Teapot Junction New Year.
At Teapot Junction. With the sun coming up.
An iced
And
tea
a
kettle junction.
Gloriously clear sky overhead. The stars were amazing last night.
Yes, they were.
What I could see with my cataracts, but the stars were amazing.
It was beautiful last night, and for a split second, I did regret not bringing my star tracking mount.
Because it's 17 degrees, you want to be outside.
And then I thought about how cold I was.
Galaxies.
Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Crawl back in and spend a few minutes warming up.
Back up. You know, the rule of thumb I used to always use for setting out of my telephone.
Once the sun rose and the air warmed up, I asked Matt to tell me about his new rig.
This is a 2021 Jeep Wrangler Extreme Recon. The Extreme Recon is a new package from Jeep that includes factory 35-inch BF Goodrich KO2s, Mopar 17-inch beadlock capable wheels, a small lift, 4.56 gears, stronger front axles, iron knuckles, and bigger brakes from the Jeep Gladiator. To accommodate the 35-inch tires, it has small extensions on the fender flares and is currently available with either the 392 V8 or this Jeep, which is a V6 Pentastar with e-torque and an 8-speed automatic transmission.
Good morning everyone, and welcome to day 7 of a very near Death Valley New Year's experience. We are departing our campsite at Teapot Junction. We arrived at Ubehebe Crater, aired back up, and headed toward the town of Beatty. There we'd find some lunch, refuel, and replace Brian's depleted propane cylinder that we'd used for the campfire. After that, our plan was to visit the nearby ghost town of Rhyolite, following a shorter, less traveled route into the town than popularly used. We are arriving in Beatty. We're going to get gas and find a barbecue joint.
There it is. It's a smokehouse up here. Smoking Jays.
We gassed up in Beatty and are now headed for Rhyolite, following a little piece of the MVBDR.
Kind of a cool canyon, and it opened up into a pretty view.
Bit of a drop off right there.
Drop off right there. Thank you. Doing okay, Brian?
Fair enough.
Yeah, he's entering that little rocky area now. Oh, now this is a nice road.
Yeah, well, you're actually getting into Rhyolite now. That's Rhyolite dead ahead.
The Overberry building, you can just walk right up in. All right, I'll do that.
That's actually cool. Shooting back against the building.
Yeah. It just gets more and more eroded the lower down you go. Didn't really stand out coming the other way, but walking this way, it's right there.
We are departing Rhyolite, headed for a possible place for us to camp tonight, near the town of Beatty. We turned off the highway just south of Beatty. This is also the MVBDR. So we found our campsite. Pretty cool. A little high in elevation, but some pretty cool rock formations. Let's talk about the trip.
Aside from that day, with Badwater Basin and Zabriskie Point, I didn't feel like the crowds were too. I mean, once we got north of Furnace Creek, it felt kind of
opened
okay
up.
about the crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I expected to see some people.
We saw a lot of people.
Yeah, we saw a lot of rental Jeeps.
Oh,
We did.
gosh,
But
darn.
after that first night, it wasn't bad.
No,
Even the people we saw yesterday, it didn't just feel excessive.
no.
It wasn't just line after line of cars.
And ringing in the new year in Teapot Junction was definitely unique, and
That was cool.
that was so cool.
I don't know, I slept through it.
Me too. I didn't ring in anything.
So I think we basically said Happy New Year's Iceland, and then called it.
That was it.
I figured that feels about right from a time zone perspective, and
It's more like Ice Kettle Junction.
Yeah.
Last night. Man, that was cool. And I had enough clothes on to be warm enough,
right.
but I would have been more comfortable if I put it on.
Being just a few miles off the highway to Beatty, the next morning we'd each depart on our own schedule. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 8 of a very near-Death Valley New Year. Matt and Brian took off just a few minutes ago before me. I'm cleanup crew here. Make sure none of them break down. Anyway, I'm thinking about stopping in Beatty, and I could do with some coffee and a little breakfast this morning. Let's see here. Open. All right. Walk around here. Looks like a place to go eat breakfast. Even though much of our original planning had not been fulfilled, it had been a great trip. It's always a pleasure to get out there with good friends, and we're all looking forward to future adventures together. Hey everybody, welcome back to my office. I have a few things I want to talk to you about today, so let me look at my note sheet here. Well, the first thing I want to talk about was kind of the big bull in the room of this trip, which was our plans changed quite a bit. There were several things that drove this, and one of the things that you don't really see in the video a lot is crew members. We actually had a much larger crew. We had several of the vehicles who were supposed to be going with us on this trip, and all of them within the last couple of weeks had various reasons that they had to drop out, which is unfortunate. We miss them, and they're good friends, and all of them you've seen before in prior videos. But that resulted in some changes. For example, originally we were going to go to Eureka Dunes. Of course, the weather put the kibosh on that. But in going to Eureka Dunes, we were going to split up into two crews because some of us wanted a more challenging route, and so I was really looking forward to driving Steel Pass up to Eureka Dunes. And obviously that did not happen during the video series, so that's still got to do it one of these days on my bucket list. The weather, of course, affected things. We weren't sure what the weather was doing, and the weather reports we were getting seemed to not pan out quite as serious, but we really weren't sure. Ultimately, we decided to pretty much stay at lower elevations and not cross any of the higher passes. And then, of course, sometimes when you're going along, you run across a washed-out road, as you saw in when I was by myself, and you've got to make smart decisions about something like that. So you adapt your plans, and you continue on, and you make the best do, and that's what we did in the video series. I also want to talk about the crowds. We mentioned them just a little bit in this last video as we're sitting around the campfire. And there were some crowds at the more popular areas, more easily accessed areas that you can drive a car to that are right along the main part of the park. So we wanted to visit Badwater, but the parking lot was full, and we drove around and looked at it from off the side. There's as the Badwater Basin Road goes around, you can get up there on a little bit of a rise, and you get a really nice view of the basin. And I've shot a picture in the past there. Yeah, that's it. And it's a really nice view. Except this picture, had I taken it this time, would have had about 50 people in it. It was so busy there, and there were a couple other places where we wanted to stop, and we ended up not stopping because of that. So when you watch my videos, almost always in all my trips, there are people around, there are vehicles around, there are sounds that I don't want to include in a video, and so I edit that stuff out. We stopped at Artist Point, and it was quite busy, and there was a lot of ruckus going on. But I didn't show that in the video. It took a couple of takes in order to get the panning shot of the artist's palette. It took a couple takes before I had people popping up on top of the hills or running down and hiking out. The two hikers you see, of course, are with me, and so that explains them. And so I did some creative editing there in order to make that a better viewer experience. And another thing too is I don't like trash in my videos, so I edit a lot of trash out of videos by not including that in the videos, and so I try and make it as pleasant an experience as I possibly can for you, the viewer. The other thing about having crowds out there is we saw a number of overlanding crews, 6, 7 vehicles, and we were concerned that, okay, these people are all out here overlanding, we're out here overlanding, there's a limited number of campsites. You can't just camp anywhere. You got to camp at a place that's already been used for camping, and you wouldn't want to camp at the other places anyway because there's no place to set up your tent or anything. It's all covered with plant life and rocks and such. So it was still a good trip, and I hope that you appreciate that. As we discussed, it was the more popular places down in kind of the central part of the park, southern central part of the park, that area around the Artist Point, Badwater Basin, Stovepipe Wells. That area right in there had a lot of people. Occasionally during my trips, somebody will have a really neat product, and I'll see that and I'll say, hey, tell me a little bit about that on camera, and so I get him to do that. And then sometimes I forget that I have that, and I forget to include that in the video. We did include one in this video about the nice propane campfire setup that Brian had brought along. One comes from Dorothy. She did that at a gathering of Wanderers, and it is about this really neat Dutch oven, and it's not anything like what you think of as a Dutch oven. But I thought, this is pretty cool, and people might be interested in this.
This is an Omnia oven. It's made in Sweden, and it's our new cooking toy. You put it on top of your stove, and it will bake for you. So you have the lid that has the small holes that allow steam to escape. You have inserts made out of silicone, so it's easy to clean. You have a rack that will keep whatever it is that you're baking and the silicone off of the base, which puts the rigidity into the silicone. And this is a stainless steel plate that heats up and helps to disperse the heat from your stove.
So essentially replacing a cast iron Dutch oven with this.
And so consequently, it is easy to store, and it works like a charm. I am very, very happy about this.
Great. So, Jeep mods. Yes, I've got a significant Jeep mod that's just about ready to happen. I have received my axles for the Wrangler, a Dynatrac D44 for the front and a D60 for the rear. The reason I'm upgrading the axles is, of course, I have a 2007 X, also known as a Sport today, and it has a D30 in the front and a D44 in the rear. I've broken pinion gears on both the front and the rear a couple of times, several times in fact, and the mechanic who does the heavy lifting on my Wrangler said, you know, it'd probably be a good idea for you to upgrade the axles on this. So that's what I'm doing, or more correctly, that's what he's going to do. I'm just waiting on the big brake kit from Northridge. That's where I ordered all my parts from. And along with doing this, I'm going to need a new rear drive shaft. I'll need to go to an aftermarket drive shaft on the rear. I already have Tom Woods on the front. I'll get a Tom Woods for the rear. And so I'll have to order that after we get the axle installed. It can take the measurement of the pinion to the flange. And because that's going to be an axle without the Arzepa joints, it's going to have to be adjusted slightly different than an OEM axle. And because of that, I've ordered upper control arms for the rear, and they're really nice new ones from Terraflex that you don't have to take the arm out in order to adjust it. I have front lower control arms that are already adjustable to take care of the Tom Woods drive shaft up in the front. And I'm going to go ahead and replace that lower control arm with this same style. So once those mods are done, I'll provide some pictures and a little bit more detail. The last thing I want to talk to you about is another project that I have ongoing right now. It's a really neat project created by Chad Ellis, and he wants to map out a route around the border of the state of Oklahoma so that if you drive the route, you'll follow as close as possible and outline the border of the state. So he's done this on maps, and what Mike Hussick and I and Chad have been doing on occasion is going out and driving the route and then finding out where the route doesn't work. For example, we run into an occasional gate, sometimes a bridge is no longer there, this type of thing. And then we have to remap the route and figure out exactly how we're going to get around the problem area. So we've been doing that, and that's going to take a few more months. And once that's done, then Chad will make that route available for anybody who wants to drive it. It'll be verified, and so it should work as long as there's no changes. And of course, there will always be changes. In putting those videos together, I don't go at the video quite the same way as I do with my other videos. You won't see a lot of the wildlife and flowers and that kind of stuff because we're on a task. And so we mostly concentrate on that task. Every now and then there might be some pretty scenery and I might get a shot in or something like that. So those videos are kind of just a little bit different. They're called the Oklahoma Circumnavigation videos. And so as you look at those, maybe they're just a little more technical. There's a lot of GoPro video in there because that's the easiest thing for me to do, and there's not a lot of stopping and setting up cameras and taking other shots. Although Chad is a Part 107 certified drone pilot, so you may see some drone shots in these every now and then. Anyway, I just want to let you know, and the video for the most recent one will be released here probably in the next week or two. And if you want to watch it, fine. But it is a little bit different than the other types of videos that I put together. Anyway, that's all I've got. Get out there, explore your world.